Okay, well, I'll get started here. Looks like we have a pretty small crowd, but that's okay. We are recording this, so we can use it for the future and share it with others. But I am Ashley Altoff. I'm the communications specialist with the Energy District. And today our lunch and learn will be, we have Jake here, Jake Jansen and Alyssa Corkery. Jake has been the summer project specialist for this term, for the summer, and then Alyssa has been a summer intern. And I believe both of the positions will be ending here in August, but they've definitely been working on some great projects throughout the summer, and they're both gonna take the lead on those. So, and Alyssa, you're gonna go first, right? Okay, sounds good.
Hey everyone, as Ashley said, my name's Alyssa Corkery, and I'm going to share my screen really quickly. Alrighty, so this summer I was tasked with working with Clayton County congregations to become cool congregations. Let's see if I can, oh, it's not letting me go to the next slide. There we go. So what is a cool congregation? Cool Congregations is a program offered through Interfaith Power and Light, which is a national organization, and they say that they're working on a religious response to global warming. And it looks like we have someone who's entered the waiting room. I admit them. Perfect. Yeah, so, and then basically the goal of the Cool Congregation program is to get churches and various religious organizations to reduce their carbon footprints by at least 10%. And for anyone who doesn't know, a carbon footprint is basically a way to measure one's impact on the environment through looking at like how many greenhouse gases are emitted by someone's lifestyle or the way a church is run, that kind of thing. And so they offer a certification if a church does decrease their carbon footprint by at least 10%. And that serves as a conversation starter within the parish and within parishioners' homes about sustainability. Why isn't it turning? There we go. So then what's the value of a certification? Like I said, it's kind of a conversation starter. And it starts conversations about asking questions like, what is the role of our church or our religious institution in climate action or in combating the climate crisis? And so that gets people thinking about it and looking at ways that they can work together as a religious community to be active in the fight against climate change. And so this also promotes a culture of sustainability within the church itself, as well as within the homes of parishioners. It also can help aid to motivate churches. So the certification process requires a minimum of a 10% reduction. And so then churches have a concrete number. When you just kind of say abstractly like, oh, you should be more green, or the church should try to be more sustainable, that kind of is a bit out there, a bit wishy-washy, and it doesn't really say kind of what folks are after. And so the certification process has, there's a toolkit that's like a 5-step toolkit, and it goes by very simply kind of steps that churches can take to then reduce their carbon footprint and get them to that 10% reduction. And this gets parishioners being involved with transitions that are being made. The packet, the packet is very user-friendly, very hands-on, and it's very simple to understand. I don't have any backgrounds in energy auditing or anything like that, and I was able to use it to guide me in working with congregations that I'm not a part of. And so I assume it would be even easier for folks who are actually active in those congregations, because it kind of, it holds the person's hand along and helps them to follow the process. And then it also helps bolster discussion within and between church communities. So if somebody's saying like, oh, Did you hear that the Lutheran church on the corner got certified as a cool congregation? Then somebody else asks what a cool congregation is. And so when you kind of look around within churches in a community, that stuff kind of spreads because those groups overlap and intermingle. And so if a couple of churches in your area are getting certified and they might have something on Facebook about it or in the local paper, you're going to start asking, like, what is that, and can my church do that? And lastly, it provides a sense of accomplishment. So once churches get to that 10% reduction, they can say, look what we did. Here's our certificate showing that we accomplished this. And it kind of gives people a taste of what it's like to be making steps, sustainable steps within their church. And there's also additional tiers of certification. So you can do it at the 10% level, 20%, 30, and 40. And so after you get that 10%, then you can start looking at, like, oh, wow, like that felt good. That was so awesome. Now what do we have to do to get to that 20% mark and stuff like that? And so my role in all of this is I worked specifically with 5 churches up in the Clayton County area to, like I said, measure their carbon footprint, do a site visit at the churches I worked with, and assess their current energy uses so that I was able to suggest potential sustainability measures to implement. Or in the case of some churches, retroactively apply for certification. So for example, St. Joseph's Catholic Church in Elkader did a LED transfer or transition a few years back. And so Cool Congregations allows us to say that, hey, here's our electricity bill was this high in 2016. And then after the transfer and after the transition, it decreased by X amount. And that would show that the carbon footprint went down. So it doesn't have to necessarily be current projects. You can retroactively apply for projects of years past. And so, like I said, I worked with 5 area churches. I worked with St. Mary's in Strawberry Point, St. Joseph's in Elkader, St. Peter's in Garnavillo, St. Mary's in Guttenberg, and St. Paul's in Monona. And so just a little bit of an overview of what we kind of got done at each church, at each location is up in St. Mary's, we were able to get the measurements made for the baseline carbon footprint of the church. And I was able to pass on suggestions of ways that they could decrease their carbon footprint. For example, like doing an LED transition like St. Joseph's done, because St. Joseph's and St. Mary's are a part of the Emmaus Pastorate. So they're kind of like a cluster of Catholic churches in that sense. And so they can take a look at what St. Joseph's did and say, okay, can we make that happen in St. Mary's, and that sort of thing. And I mentioned St. Joseph's and their transition a few years back. We are oh so close to getting them certified. We just need a couple new numbers for some calculations, and then we can apply to get them certified. St. Peter's, we were able to do a site visit, get to meet pastor and look at, we got their measurements made and looking at, for example, the biggest way that they're contributing to their carbon footprint is their electricity usage. So it looks at a couple different things like gas usage, electricity, water, food waste, paper products to use, that kind of thing. And particularly for St. Peter's, their electricity was their highest usage. And so looking at things like potentially doing a LED transition from incandescent bulbs is just one of the few options that they are looking at, and that is possible for them. St. Mary's in Guttenberg had a really good discussion with their deacon about sustainability and the importance of it from the Catholic Church and the Catholic perspective, because I myself am Catholic, and we had some really good discussions about that and the role of the Catholic Church as a whole in sustainability, but also specifically St. Mary's. And I found out that they had recently started an LED transition in their church as well. And we're looking to work with them going further as they continue to make more sustainable changes in their church. And then St. Paul's in Monona, I was able to get a hold of their secretary, and kind of explain a little bit about the Energy District, first of all, and the Energy District's mission, but then also specifically the Cool Congregations project. And we spoke on the phone, had a great discussion, and I emailed her some resources on the project itself so that and then the pastor and then their president of the board could take a look at it. I believe they're having a meeting either tonight or Friday. I can't remember if it was the 12th or the 14th. And they were going to look at whether or not this is something that they wanted to do, if they wanted to get involved with the project. But we made those connections and kind of floated that line out there for them. And so I also wanted to touch on the project and how it's kind of been affected by the pandemic a little bit, because it's kind of the elephant in the room for literally everything that's going on right now. So first of all, I largely worked with parish staff and volunteers from the congregation. And people are busy in the best of times, but especially now with the pandemic. For example, parish staff, they're busy figuring out how they can minister and serve their congregation while remaining socially distant and being socially responsible to ensure the health and safety of their communities. And then volunteers, they're not even paid to be doing what they're doing and helping me out. And so everyone's already busy with their own jobs, and this is something that they're doing on the side. And so that kind of climate changes how a project flows. And another thing that impacts it is right now, not many folks are making donations. There's limited budgets and funding available for additional projects, whether it be, I don't know, like a boiler needing replacing, or doing something like installing geothermal or doing an LED transition. It's just simply that for some churches, the money's just not there right now, because if they're connected to a school, it turns out that they might have to prioritize making sure that the school is funded in a way that when they reopen in the fall, they can keep teachers, other staff, and students healthy. And so it's just kind of one of those things where financially everyone's struggling a bit more right now. And so that's kind of affected their ability to do additional projects like what we were trying to work for this summer. But all of that aside, we were still able to start a lot of good conversations about sustainability. We created additional relationships between the Energy District and these churches. There were some already pre-existing ties for some of the churches between board members of the Energy District. They might have been like parishioners, or might belong to a certain church that I worked with, but creating additional relationships in that regard, and then opening the doors for further interactions and partnerships, whether that be specifically with the Cool Congregations project or something else that the Clayton County Energy District might offer. The summer internship period is technically over, like Ashley said, but personally, I'm interested in continuing on with the project because, like I mentioned, for St. Joseph's, we are so close to getting them certified, and I see the value in this project and the things that kind of getting the word out there about the Energy District and about the program. I see the good that can do. So pending school schedule and stuff like that, this is something that I would still very much like to keep an eye on going forward into the fall. And so just a bit of a recap. Each church is at a different stage in the process because of a multitude of different factors, whether it be staff availability, funds. Some churches have started projects already. Some are kind of in the beginning stages of it. It's just kind of different with all 5 of them. But the Energy District and the project of Cool Congregations has been introduced to each. We've had some good conversations about sustainability, and we're really hoping to continue fostering a relationship between the Energy District and the churches. And I think that's all I've got. Thanks. I'm going to stop sharing my screen here. Oh, Ashley, you're on mute.
Whoops, there we go. So yeah, thank you, Alyssa. That was awesome. If anyone has any questions at the end, or we'll take any questions at the end. If you want to come on with video or just your voice, we'll take those at the end. But otherwise, we'll move on to Jake, who, like I said, was the summer project specialist. So, and he has been working on a LED delivery program and also a solar mapping project. So he'll go over those.
Can you see my screen, Ashley?
Yep, it's good.
All right,
Good.
cool. All right, so like Ashley said, my name's Jake Jansen, and I'm going to be giving you a review of my summer working as Clayton County Energy District project specialist. I'm just going to adjust a couple things real quick. All right. So I know most of you, but I'll just give a brief biography of myself. So I'm a Clayton County native. I was raised and grew up in the Driftless region, Northeast Iowa, enjoying the outdoors, kayaking, canoeing, fishing, hiking, you name it. I love where I grew up. And so I graduated from Central Community School in 2016 and then went to Loras College in Dubuque with majored in politics and sociology, and then graduated this last spring in 2020. And so throughout my education, I really kept environmental justice as this foundation and an emphasis through internships and student positions, clubs, and just other classes. I found this passion for environmentalism. And so I'm actually going to Milwaukee, to the UW of Milwaukee, to study a master's in sustainable peace building. I actually moved to Milwaukee in a few days. So I'm really excited about that. But through this period with the pandemic, I have kind of been through transition. I've had the fortune to live with my parents for the last few months, and even greater blessing to work with the Clayton County Energy District as a project specialist. And so it's really been great to work with my passions to help build sustainable communities and also to give back to Clayton County, which I love so dearly. And I worked on 3 different projects. And the project that probably kept the majority of my time was leading the free LED delivery program. And so what that is it started with a grant through the Upper Mississippi Gaming Corporations that was granted to the Clayton County Energy District in 2019. And with those dollars, the Energy District has wanted to lead a program to administer 5,000 LED light bulbs to residents of our county. And so, as you know, LEDs are great for the pocketbook because you are saving energy and you're going to pay less when you use less energy. And then if you use less energy that's likely coming from a fossil fuel source, you're going to save CO2 and help with our climate. So it's a win-win. And for the majority of 2019 and early 2020, the Energy District used a method of swap stations to put out LED light bulbs in public venues like basically like public libraries or parks. And basically, if you come with your LED light bulbs, your old light bulbs, you can get new light bulbs and save on energy bill. But in March, COVID-19 hit, and we needed to find a way to get out another 3,000 light bulbs, but do it in a way that wasn't going to minimize the spread of COVID-19. And so we developed a program called the Free LED Delivery Program. So essentially, people find out about this program, they sign up on our website, and then I and a few others, we drove across the county, dropping off LED light bulbs and picking up their old ones. Very simple, but it really was also an emphasis too to minimize the spread, but to tell people, here's a way to save in a time that's pretty tough for our economy. And it really kind of sold. But first, to give you the parameters of it, we had, there came in packs of 4s. We bought these light bulbs locally in Clayton County, and they were 2 packs. We gave each household 2 packs of 4, so a total of 8 energy saving light bulbs. So 8 bulbs times 375 houses equals 3,000 bulbs. And so we wanted to ensure equal distribution, not just going in the most populated areas of the city or of the county. And so to do that, we planned out we were going to deliver 125 houses in the north, central, and south parts of the county. And to assure that it all didn't happen where we got 125 in the north, we had to be kind of tactical where we promoted and just kind of leave a list of when we got to 125 in the north, and then had to turn down some people. And that's exactly what happened. When we started promoting it, I had an idea that we'd get maybe close to half of our goal of 375, and the rest would have to be kind of more, in person, try and find a way to get these out other than just sign up. But the reality was, through our promotion, first through social media, we paid for a Facebook ad, and we had a lot of response. People were sharing it. The idea of free, people like free things, understandably, during a tough time, and that kind of took off. We also did a radio ad through our local radio station. A lot of people heard my voice, and we got more and more people to sign up. And then I think the most successful way we promoted was using an every door direct mailer through the U.S. Postal Service. So basically, in certain routes, and this is where we got kind of tactical, where we do a bigger route in the north if we were not close to our 125 goal for that region, we picked that route, and basically every mailbox in that route got the little yellow green flyer in the right corner. We made sure it stood out where it said 8 free light bulbs come to your door. You just got to send a text to me or sign up on our website, and you can save up to $50 a year if you replace your old light bulbs with the new energy saving LED light bulbs. And as you can see on our map here, we touched every corner of the county, but by June 20th, we had over 375 people signed up, and we had to actually turn down some people and just say, we're going to do this program again, hopefully. Thanks for your interest, but we just don't have enough light bulbs right now. We're really the boots on the ground because it takes a lot to deliver all these light bulbs. And you can see like Elkader, there's 62 there. It doesn't show you every dot, but it does go across the whole county. Just a little closer view on the north end, bigger cities like Postville and McGregor over here, and Monona. The central part with Elkader and a little bit of Volga down here, and then the south part of Clayton County as well. So the last part of this program was our delivery. And so essentially we just put a rubber band around the 2 packs of 4 and then slipped a little flyer in there, handout that talked about, don't wait to save that. These are going to be good things for your pocketbook if you put them in your light sockets right now. And then we talked about the overview of this project and how it benefits our county, and then more about the energy district as a whole, because we're a nonprofit, and if you like this program, pitch in and we will receive your donation. We really appreciate it. So like I said, just some brief statistics about the overall of the program. Because of the efficiency of the LED light bulbs, every household who replaced their incandescent bulbs with the new ones will save up to $50 a year on their energy bill. So quite a bit. And then as far as total savings, in total over the bulbs 13.6 lifetime, the summer program will save Clayton County $250,000. And that's just with the 3,000 bulbs we delivered this summer. And then lastly, when you're talking about our climate impact, the 3,000 LED bulbs will reduce Clayton County's carbon footprint by 2,500 tons, which is equivalent to eliminating 6.2 million miles driven by an average passenger vehicle. So we're talking about all ends of the triple bottom line. And I think this point here is really, it's a good one, especially that with this project, because obviously these LED light bulbs are going to help with our environment. They're really going to save the residents that get their LED light bulbs economically. So that's all tying into our social, but we're also hitting a community, building a community and relationships through it all. I can't tell you the amount of people that have, sent me a text or an email saying, thank you so much. This is really going to help. Or I've never heard of the Energy District. This is a great program. Or talking through their door when I drop them off, say, this is awesome. All of that is building community and getting our name out there. So we're hitting on all ends of the triple bottom line. So the next project I led was the Clean Energy Map and helping develop this map or research further. So what the Clean Energy Map is, it's a link on our website You just go to our homepage and it says Clean Energy Clean Energy Map. It's a shared resource with the Winneshiek Energy District. And essentially, it just has pins on the map of people that own solar in Northeast Iowa. And on that pin, we've on most of the pins, there's the name of the owners, the year the solar went up, the installment year, the size of the solar array, and then who installed it, and usually a logo or phone number of the installer, and then a picture of that solar. So our main reason for mapping and putting our solar owners in Northeast Iowa on a map is it's a resource for future customers. If they're in contact with solar installers or with us as the energy district, they can go to this map and they can say, hover over and say, hey, I know that person, Jim and Jolene. My parents have solar, and they say, oh, I know Jim and Jolene. I can go ask them what they think of solar, and that can be a resource for them. It also is a really good avenue for us to quantify the solar in our county. This is just kind of giving a general overview, and I'll talk more about this later, but if we can figure out how much solar there was or how much there is now, we can see this progression in the clean energy transition. So to do this project, I first initially thought there's got to be an easier way than just driving around saying there's solar and figuring out who owns that solar. And so first, I thought there maybe would be some state data, and really where a lot of people told me to talk to was the Iowa Solar Energy Trade Association, ISETA. And I talked to a guy by the name of Paul who's been in the trenches, done the sleuthing, and figured out where all the solar is by looking at Google Earth, road by road, and finding the solar and putting a pin on the map. And I talked to him, he gave me a lot of great advice, but he wasn't able to say this address right here, there's solar, out of confidentiality with the solar owner, which is understandable. So he did give me kind of a stepping stone to start doing that work myself. And so for me, it was using Google Earth. So essentially, this is our house, my parents' solar, and you just started going road from road, and you could usually see the solar on the map. And so once you did that, it was like, well, who owns that solar? And going to the county assessor using Beacon, you could look up that parcel of land, figure out Jim and Jolene Jansen owns that solar, and then figure out using the phone book or white pages, getting a number and calling that person. So, and then once we got in contact with that solar owner, it definitely wasn't just a slam dunk. We had to get their permission first and then learn about their solar investment. When was it installed? Who installed it? Can you send me a picture? So it got a little bit much at first, but a lot of people were really willing to work with you. And it was creating relationships through the SALT. So it was really a great project, but it just took some time to get to this point. Now, looking at Google Earth wasn't my only mode for getting this information. Going to solar installers, a few actually have their own map on their website where you could just go to the map and figure out where these installments were, and then do the back end work and try and figure out their phone number and create a relationship. But also a few installers were really willing to work with me and say, well, this would benefit me because if this is going to help sell more solar, I'm willing to give you some information. They weren't able to say, yeah, go map it. You got to get their permission, but they would tell me the size of the system, who it was, an address, and even give me phone numbers. So that was really helpful throughout it as well. And then just kind of old school driving around. I was driving, I feel like when I delivered light bulbs, I have been on close to 80 to 90% of the roads in Clayton County. And once you see one solar installment, you start to see others. They start to stand out to your eye. And I would just write down the address and then go further from there. And once I got addresses, I had created a database just using an Excel sheet. And the point I was trying to make is if we got a little bit of information filled in one box like an address, we could figure out their name, and it was kind of just fill in the blank, and you took step by step. And eventually we started filling a pretty wide range database. Well, now when I started, we had roughly 20 points on the map, and now we're up to 75 points. So it's a more filled in resource for Clayton County. So, and all of these points have a picture, they have all that information. It's just more complete, and hopefully it can be a more useful tool for people in Clayton County and other energy districts. Now, as far as quantification, I think this is really what's is going to help the Energy District going further with grant writing. But and this is simply just my own methodology, and I've definitely missed solar, and some people aren't willing for it to be mapped. There's probably 10 or 15 of those kind of people where we just couldn't get in contact with them. But for what I can tell in my research, in 2010, we had about 2 solar installments in our county. And it increased by 1 up until 2012, and then all the way into 2015 when the Clayton County Energy District was put in place, we had about 23 installments. And since then, we have seen this exponential increase, and now we're up to 83, and it's probably closer to 100. But you can see that since the inception of the Energy District, we see about a 400% quadrupled the amount of solar in our county. You can't say that's completely because of the Energy District. It's not completely causal, but it is likely. I mean, you're talking about technology and decreased in the amount for solar, but in all, we are a facilitator in solar. So I would like to say we probably have had some input in increasing the solar in our county. And talking about kilowatts for the amount of solar, again, it's exponential increase. You can see 308 in 2015, now we're up to 1,300. And this is solar that's privately owned by business or agriculture or residential. There are some solar farms with the REC up in Postville and Starberry Point, which would probably be close to actually 2,600 total if you factored in, but just residential or privately owned, we're talking about 1,300 and this exponential increase in the Energy District. So as talking about solar, as far as how is it impact on our climate, this is from the EPA's calculator. 1 kilowatt of solar produces on average 30,000 kilowatts per hour of clean energy over its 30-year lifetime. So going off of this number, if it works, 1,300 kilowatts of solar in our county, that's my calculation as of 2020, that's 40 million kilowatts per hour of clean energy. Then if you're talking about carbon dioxide prevention, because we're at a clean energy source, that's 28,000 tons, which is equivalent of, let me see, 70 million miles driven by the average car taken off of our roads. So fairly substantial. Solar is clean and local energy. And lastly, a little bit of my time that I've been working more on in August is collecting a few solar stories. And essentially this is creating a relationship with somebody that owns solar and talking to them about why solar, what is the benefit, and what are their favorite parts of solar. And if you can capture the story, we can use the story as a selling point for other people. If we can share it with people and say, wow, I've never heard that story before, and then that can personally change my story. I really think stories are how we progress in society, and solar begets solar. So I captured 3 different stories just for the sake of time. I'm just going to tell you about one story that I think they would be happy with us sharing their story. Steve and Michelle Dickers out of Guttenberg, Iowa. They built a home in 2015, about 4,600 square feet. And they made sure to build their home with energy efficiency as a priority. And solar was always a dream for them or something they were willing to do. And they finally pulled the trigger in 2019 when they put up 2 solar arrays, one of 10 kilowatts and the other 5 kilowatts. And it's been up for a little over a year now. And in the first year of production, they produced 16 megawatts of solar, which is a lot of energy. And so in the months of June and July, they actually are able to produce a surplus of energy. And with all the energy expenses at their home, and then actually in Steve's business where he builds guitars in that kind of shed you can see there, all those energy demands is met, and they're producing more than they need. And they're able to sell that back to the Guttenberg city municipality and sell that because Guttenberg has established a net metering policy in 2018. So they are able to not only pay for all their energy expenses through their solar, but when they're producing a surplus, they get money back to their other city utility expenses. And that locally and clean source energy is going to their neighbors to help power their homes. So because of that, they are able to pay off their $26,000 investment in less than 7 years. Now, with the tax credit from their federal, from the federal and state level, they're able to help make that more affordable, but they're still producing, they're not paying much for their energy, if at all. But also, that's a great economic win, but they're environmentally winning as well. And Steve mentioned in an interview that global warming is an existential threat to humanity. We must use less, and going solar is a way I can assure my energy usage isn't coming from fossil fuels. And oops, I can't read the last part there. It's getting covered by a Zoom thing. But in the end, yes, it's an environmental win for Steve, and he can feel good morally in an environmentally conscious sense, and save. They both, Steve and Michelle Dickers, can save on their energy bills as well. So that's the majority of summer working with the Energy District in Clayton County. I've learned a lot. It's been kind of boots on the ground work, working, but it has been overall a really great summer. So with that, I guess that's what I have, and we can do questions, right, Ashley?
Yep, if anyone has any questions, you can just unmute yourself. You can take off the video if you'd like, but that's up to you. And let us, ask away if there's anything else you'd want to know.
I had a question for Alyssa. Did any of the churches get certified for pool congregations?
Yeah, first of all, I want to say sorry about having my video off. My internet started lagging real bad, so I thought I'd give it one less thing to have to handle, so I shut off my video for a bit. To answer your question, no, because we're so close with St. Joseph's, but I discovered while working with, there's an online calculator in order to measure your footprint to then get certified. And I found that you have to wait a year to then be able to, like, you have to have your changes in effect for a full year before you can then remeasure to show the 10% decrease. And so the one thing that I could do is, like I mentioned, St. Joseph already did their LED transition, and I'm just currently waiting for a few more numbers to crunch their second, or excuse me, we have their after numbers. So after the transition, I just need numbers from a few years ago, which is why it's taking a little bit longer to get a hold of them. Then the end of the fiscal year was a little crazy for the accountant. And so we're kind of having to work around her schedule because she's the one who's in charge of this stuff.
Thank you.
Anybody else have any questions?
Yeah, I had a question, actually for Jake and for Alyssa. Alyssa, you had mentioned that a church might be considering a geothermal project. Does that would that contribute then to, that reducing their carbon footprint and then maybe getting the certification?
Yeah, so the one thing, when I was mentioning that, that's just a potential option that they could take. Essentially, I just didn't want to keep listing like an LED transition. So the churches that I have worked with, at least to my knowledge, aren't explicitly considering it, but it's on the list of options. So with churches, I've kind of sent out, there's a list of 25 cheaper options, such as looking at like one of them's like turning off unused lights, unplugging like a fridge or a freezer that isn't used all that often, or doing like an LED transition. Those are some options for cheaper ones. But then there's like more expensive ones, such as installing geothermal. So sorry if I was unclear. I meant that as a bit more of a hypothetical. But yes, that would be something that would, it's on the list for things that could help then cut your carbon footprint.
Okay, terrific. And then Jacob, you mentioned, the clean energy map and how that can be useful for other energy districts. I sort of wonder if you have some parting words for, I see that Jack Sweeney from Alameda Energy District is here, and as far as like, do you think there'll be some how-tos from not just the energy collection, the solar mapping, but also the LEDs? Will we have some kind of some tools that we can hand off to other energy districts for how to do a project like this?
We can create we have some of it already. I mean, there's a lot of documents and flyers and stuff like that that I have all on a Google Drive that could just be completely changed to Alameda. So that's that for specifically for the free LED delivery. But as for the mapping, I could definitely put a demo together or put a Word document together just step by step. But it is kind of just, it's not a complicated project. It's just kind of tedious, like I said. But once you get further into it and you have something substantial that actually you could be proud of as a resource and start sharing, I feel like it's worth the effort.
Decent, good. Well, I would just like to say to both Jacob and Alyssa, my goodness, what a great summer you've had. And in the midst of a pandemic, you're great examples of how to keep an energy district relevant during something that is kind of historic. So thank you very much for your effort, and it's been a great summer working with both of you.
I too would like to thank for your help on these projects. Very nicely done.
Thank you. It's been a pleasure working. I've learned a lot. For sure.
All righty. Is everyone good then, or does anyone else have any questions?
Ashley, were you going to mention, I think we got an upcoming lunch and learn.
Sorry about that. So our next lunch and learn will be, it will be with Amy Bauska, and she's the Howard County Energy District Director. And that'll be September 16th at the same time around lunch at noon. And she will be talking specifically about weather and climate change in Alcater. So should be a pretty interesting conversation. And we'll make sure to market that. It'll be a Facebook event and be on our website, so you can get registered that way if you're interested. So, but otherwise, thank you everybody for listening on. And this was recorded, so we most likely will get it on our website if you want to refer anyone to it to learn about the projects. So.
Thank you very much, Ashley.
Yeah, thank you guys.
Great job, you guys.